Hi, my name's Sam Price, and every single Friday I give you a macro technical analysis video that breaks down Bitcoin, Bitcoin dominance, Tether dominance, the total market cap of all the cryptocurrencies, the total market cap of all the altcoins. I also go over the S&P, the NASDAQ, gold, and the DXY to give us a big picture of where the macro markets are going so we don't get caught up in the day-to-day and in the small time frames. Let's break it down for Bitcoin. I have something to show you right off the bat that is pretty interesting. The first thing I want to look at is BTC could be possibly in a giant inverted head and shoulder. I just kind of contemplated this for a second. This would get us back all the way back up to about, 100,000, 101.5. And then you'd have a measured move, which is the length of the base here all the way to the neckline. And then that could poke us out, honestly, to a new all-time high. Bitcoin could go to $130,000. I'm not saying that's going to happen for sure. That's just your first little bit of copium there for Bitcoin right off the bat. But let's take a look at the bigger time frames and really kind of crunch it on in. First thing we want to look at is the 12-month chart. We kind of had a bearish year, right? It wasn't an amazing year. It kind of an indecision doji. Went high, went down, not over yet. But right now, not an amazing candle, right? We take a look at the monthly chart, and the monthly hanging on the 21-day moving average. Could it get a bit of a bounce here? That's kind of like the one last thing, and it's almost like you could say there's some monthly hidden bullish divergence. We've never seen this before either, hidden bullish divergence on the monthly. And if you took a wick from here all the way up, you could say, wow, it already came back down to like the 786. If you took the bigger move here, you could say it's getting pretty close to the 618. So, pretty hefty retracement on the bigger time frame. Took a lot of money to get Bitcoin down there. The only thing I see, too, that we should always keep in the back of our minds is could we be if we do get a bounce, could we make a right shoulder that just makes us into an inverted head and shoulder, and then we know the neckline to the head would just bring us lower. And that's a $34,000 or $40,000 Bitcoin. No guarantees it's going to happen for sure. You still have some strong monthly support at 70,000 and right there at about $82,000. So actually, let me make that lower. It's about 80K, right? Oh, yeah, it's about 82,150 for Bitcoin. So as long as the monthly can stay above 82K, there is support right there. You see that? Once the monthly closes below that, I would have to assume we could come all the way back down there to about 71,000. That's just how the monthly works. That's how, and we've been playing that, and the monthly's been pretty respecting these levels. Like it closed below a level, it dropped to the next level. So we see here too, we're talking the same thing here. We lost this $100,000, $500, $100,500 level. For Bitcoin, you could see we were likely going to drop to here. And if we lost 93K, we were going to come down and test this resistance right there at about $86,000. You can see it. That was where these two candles resisted, and we're right there, $86,000, $85,000 BTC. If we close these candles below this resistance here, let me put it up. You can assume we're going to come back down here to 77,000. So there could be more downside for Bitcoin at the present moment. There could be more downside. Another, copium idea is that this is a shoulder. You do make a head here, and you do make a right shoulder, and somehow, some way, Bitcoin does recover to the upside. These things are always possible. I'm open-minded to them, but they're unlikely, and we kind of have to look at it the way we normally do. But that could happen. I'm always open-minded, but right now, the 3-day chart has fallen below the 200 moving average. We would have to get back above that soon. Usually, when you lose the 2-day, the 200 on the 3-day, you come to the 4-day 200. Which would mean Bitcoin would come down and test with a candle close possibly $78,000. And then the daily here with a big wick to the upside, it did so far has been pumping back up pretty nicely. And actually even in the last few minutes got a nice little pump back to the upside for Bitcoin. And that's what you want to see. Right here on the daily, you can see there's some support right there. So I'll bring this down and you can see resistance. Let me zoom in for you. But you can see here, look, resistance, 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 resistance. We flipped that. And so 85,000 is a strong area. If you can stay above 85K, we could definitely use it as support for a possible bounce. And so this is kind of your, another, extreme bullish idea that could change the game is that we get this inverted head and shoulder here. We actually start breaking back to the upside for the next 2 weeks. It's been a brutal dump, 17-day dump. Honestly, with just a couple days of green in the middle, it's been a vicious dumping. So you would expect at least they go back after the shorts a little bit, and we're far away from the 21. Whenever we're this far from the 21 on a long, we come back to the 21 in some type of consolidation. So even if we're bearish, I feel like we have to come back to the 21, either in an uptrended flag, sideways flag, or even just a V-shaped recovery. So in my mind, a little too far from the 21 on the daily suggests we do come back to the upside. Also the 4-hour tweezer bottoming and looking like it wants to reverse, and the 4-hour putting in a possible inverted head and shoulder. So watch your 4-hour shoulder, shoulder, head, shoulder, shoulder, and see if the 4-hour can get us back to $102,000. Not that far away considering how quick liquidity can come in and out of this market. So I'd look for the 4-hour. First thing we'd see is a move back to 93 and then see if we can make this right shoulder. But it does look like we could be getting a reversal here for Bitcoin. Your bearish scenario is somehow this flags out. We don't get any really right shoulders and it makes a bear flag. We touched that 200. So for the next, I'd say 16 hours, you start going more sideways. You don't really shoulder out. You're going to dump. But if you can come up here and then start making shoulders between the $90,000 and $92,000 level on the right side, good chance you're pumping back up to 102K. So, hey, there's still some hopium here for Bitcoin. It's not over just yet. And that's BTC. Let's take a look at the total market cap and all of cryptocurrency. And same story for total. Like, it would basically have to make that same recovery. At the end of the day, it is a low, it has a high, it has a higher low, it has a higher high. That's technically a higher low. So you could say total's still in an uptrend despite the insanity and how bearish people are right now, which is interesting. And then if I pull a Fibonacci from this impulse all the way to the wick, we are kind of came to the 786, which you would assume would be some type of bounce. So I'm looking for a bounce here for Bitcoin. I could be wrong, but it's looking like next week we might be on our way back up and somewhere over here. So on the total market cap, I wouldn't get overly bearish here. Actually looks like there could be a bounce or at least some consolidation. And it says by next week, we're either making a bear flag for more pain or we have bounce. So I think this is a good place to possibly take along, but that's up to you. I'm not a financial advisor. We'll look at total 3, the entire market cap of all of the altcoins. Same scenario. You're still in a higher low, right? On the macro, you're still making a higher low. So like as bearish as we want to be, you'd have to basically close a candle below 760 or what is that, $775 billion. And then I would kind of lean more bearish. But as long as you can hug that higher low, I'd see some type of recovery. I'm telling you, even if it's a bearish recovery, even if it's like a bear flag here, like we just kind of consolidate up and then we dump out of it. I'm not saying we're going to definitely get out of this and it's not, but I'm seeing some type of consolidation, some type of recovery here off of the low. And I could be wrong, but that's what I'm getting from the market. We move into Bitcoin dominance, right? And you want to see kind of where that's going. And it looks like a right shoulder. So that also tells me that we could get some movement in the altcoins. If this kind of dumps down here, we're also going to look at Tether dominance, but that looks like you're going to make a right shoulder and continue to dump. Looks like Bitcoin dominance is going to give back a little bit. And let's see, is it going to give back to Tether or is it going to give back to the altcoins? Let's take a look at Tether dominance. I would like to see some resistance for Tether dominance now. I mean, the weekly just getting back above the 200, showing that inverted head and shoulder and pushing. It is a little far from the 21 on the weekly time frame, though, after that impulse, which would tell us usually it doesn't drag the 21 with it that far. Let's go back in time to our 3-day. Interesting. So I'm looking for consolidation yet again. It looks like we may have to go sideways in everything. Bitcoin, Tether dominance, as we find our way the next 4 or 5 days. It would be nice if this kind of makes a right shoulder and slumps over. We'd like to get back below this trend line here. That's be kind of important. But again, we might make a flag. So this will tell us a lot. Watch Tether dominance. As we told you before, remember when he saw you breaking above the 200 and I said, man, that doesn't look amazing. We could get a breakout. That's the signal that I go for. So definitely told us something was brewing there and it was spot on. Let's take a look at the DXY. We would also like the DXY to kind of stop being so strong. I've been pumping a little bit recently. You'd like it to pull back. Just in general for these risk on assets. See, the last time we looked at it, we saw this flag and said, man, that flag looks bullish. Said it's going to break out, and it is breaking out. DXY actually still looks somewhat bullish to me, so I have to assume that it's going to continue. It's making a flag. The 21's coming. So, again, it does, I've seen it pump with Bitcoin. It doesn't always have to be uncorrelated, or inversely correlated, but, man, you do have to pay attention here, and the DXY does look strong, and it does say that it's going to push up for some more movement to the upside, so. And there you have it. I mean, the DXY does look strong. You really want the DXY to drop when altcoins are pumping, right? Because It only helps their cause for risk on assets. Let's take a look at gold. I suspect gold will continue sideways, make a beautiful bull flag, and then continue to pump. And it's doing exactly what we said it would the last time we talked about it. We actually took this fractal from the last time. It looks very similar. Gold will do something similar to this, just kind of that will be that wave 1, wave 2 there. Sideways price action till it eventually breaks out yet again. And I've been just leaving that on the sidelines there. So I've been just watching gold. Looks like it's a little tighter. Not every move is exactly the same. Looks like this one might be a little shorter based on what we're seeing in the world. I feel like gold will start to break out. Could be the last chance actually to buy gold right now on the low. Because I see that, it'll take some time, but I see it bouncing. This is a cup and a handle. You see the cup in the handle. They call me Samuel Cup and Handle, Sammy Cup and Handy. And this looks like you're going to get one of these. You got your cup, you got your handle, you break out, you get tight, and then this thing breaks out. Could be the last low for gold as it comes up, comes down. Maybe able to get it kind of right there again, very close to the price, but maybe not this exact price. I'm bullish on gold. I see it going to $5,281 an ounce. Last time I said it was right around here. We were spot on. I'm saying the same thing now for gold. Let's take a look at the S&P futures, which I just longed actually on the live stream, and it's up right now. So we just longed the S&P on BTCC. It's up $230. We also just longed Bitcoin. It's up $100. So we just took longs on Bitcoin and the S&P on a Friday afternoon, which is actually very, very rare for me to be doing so. But I see this as a shoulder, head, right shoulder. I see this as a beautiful V-shaped recovery back to the upside. And I see a big move as we're oversold here. And everyone's kind of overly bearish. I see a pump. They're going to print money. They have to print this money. The rate cut will come February or December or January or December. But I have a good chance. And again, today what happened was the rate cut came back and went up to 70%. It was like 40 earlier today. Something happened. Someone said something. And now you're back at 73. That could be back at 80 or 90. And that, I believe, gave us a bit of a pump in the S&P. Got the kind of rumors going that there will be a rate cut. And that kind of changed the story for a lot of people here. And so I'm long on the S&P. When we come back next week, somewhere, Friday the 28th, right? Because we'll be somewhere over here, sideways. And that'll be Black Friday, everybody. Which I also have a Black Friday sale. If you want to jump on into that, you go to all my videos. You just click the link right here that says Black Friday Early Bird Sale. Click that link, and that'll take you to my basically a form. Fill out that form, and I'm going to give you an added 10% on my Black Friday sale. Otherwise, you could just take advantage of the Black Friday sale. But if you want an added discount, 24 hours in advance on Super Thursday, we'll call it, you can jump in on Sammy Super Thursday 24 hours before Black Friday by hitting this link and filling out the form. Let's take a look at the NASDAQ, the NQ futures, E-mini futures, and the same story. I see a V-shaped recovery for the NASDAQ. You could trade the NASDAQ too with a stop below this wick, and I see it coming up, going sideways. It could make a bear flag and dump. We'll see in the next week if we're only sideways, but I see a V-shaped recovery. I see money flowing back into this market. Where else are you going to put it? Too many people are sitting on the sidelines with trillions of dollars. That money's going to lose value. They got to start to use it. And so in my mind, this is likely what's going to happen here to the NASDAQ. So that's your macro analysis, everybody, for Bitcoin, for the total market cap, of all the altcoins, for Bitcoin dominance, for Tether dominance, for the DXY, for gold, the NASDAQ, and the S&P futures. I hope you had a good time watching this. I do macro analysis like this almost basically every single day on my channel for Bitcoin and other assets as well. And we do super chats and have a blast. Go to cryptolifer.com to find out more. Go to @cryptolifer on YouTube and go to @cryptolifer on x.com. If you like what you saw here, please comment, like, and subscribe. Hit the bell for notifications. You can find out when I post my next video. And remember, if you came to the channel, then you're already doing the right thing. Crypto